Happy Saturday morning. We're in the living room with Socks washing himself back there. He's just eaten a whole load of plants in the garden, so I think he's going to throw up and produce a hairball at some point. So I hope it's not during this video. I'm going to talk about a few favourite books from downstairs. Wow, it is pretty sunny, isn't it? The rain stopped and I can see the glare of the sun. I hope you can still see things. Right, here's a few books from downstairs. Again, treasured items. This book of photos I bought in 1985 when I was 15, and it's a kind of tour. It's a kind of commemorative volume about David Bowie's Serious Moonlight tour in 1983. It was really expensive for the time, I remember, and it's beautifully illustrated. It really makes you feel like you've been on the tour with him. It was when I was first a fan, and I was just absolutely in love with everything about David Bowie and his past, his back catalogue, all those records I knew from having had them in the house. My family always had his records, and all my friends loved him. The cooler friends loved him. Anyway, this was a big deal that year in 85, I guess. I also got the video, which was a birthday present. It was hugely expensive to buy a concert video then. Anyway, that book, which is falling apart, it has pursued me from house to house, stayed with me. Okay, what else? Here's a novel, Violence and Lavender, by my friend Ryan John Cavell, which is a 1920s mystery, I think. Was it 20s? Yes, the Roaring Twenties. When a young runaway is found murdered, it falls to his friends to uncover the truth. Whispers run rampant, ghostly visitations provide no tangible clues. A spiritualist does nothing but confuse the situation, and police dismiss new evidence as unimportant. Rowan Forrester is haunted by not just a ghost, but by what could have been, had he ever plucked up the courage to tell the dear departed his true feelings. High society mixes with the queer demimonde of Manchester in the Roaring Twenties, in this vividly textured world populated by vibrant, unforgettable LGBT plus characters. Available on Amazon and from Ryland's own website. Another friend from the same writing group, David Richards, and that's his third novel in this series about the old dears. Pam and Jean are back. Running a bed and breakfast under assumed names, the two ladies have finally found some peace and no longer feel the need to indulge in their lethal little hobby. That all changes when a one-star review sends Pam over the edge, which exposes them to the public once more, leading to their capture and incarceration. Banged up at Her Majesty's pleasure and awaiting trial, Pam and Jean try to make the best of a bad situation. After all, things can't get any worse, right? It's two homicidal old ladies dispatching people one after the next. His books are really funny. Okay. Here's somebody else. I used to work with, Michelle Roberts. This is her collected poems. We taught together at UEA. I've known Michelle for a long time. Another great writer. This poem fell into my hands recently. I opened the book at random. I've had this collection for years and years. This is her selected poems from 86 to 96, and this is a poem. I think it's about an art shop, and she makes it seem like the tomb of a great kind of Egyptian warrior or king, pharaoh. It's called Going into Cornelison's, Great Russell Street. I think I should look it up. That's the wonderful art shop, full of treasures. The window held jointed dolls, idols, the toys of artists. It drew me in. The entrance deep as the tunnel leading to that boy king's tomb, gilded box within box, the high doors of his outermost skin, guarded by two still jackals, his entrails and hearts packed tight in alabaster. canopic jars, the square coffer tenderly braced by 4 little golden goddesses, worn at each corner, their outstretched arms long as wings, their fingertips touching each other's. The really good bit is about the colours. There were jars transparent with the word blue, turquoise, brilliant, and sifted violet, soft as chiffon, the iridescent pearls, salts of mauve and ultramarine. Then an ampoule of orange henna, jazzed with saffron, yellow as wet sand, a staff of coffee, of pan brulee, dissolved to contralto, rose, to a screech of lime sorbet. It's the jazzed with saffron and the screech of lime sorbet that make it. It's funny, it's that business of dropping a verb from elsewhere or an adjective from a different kind of thing right into the middle of the proceedings. That's what does it. Draws us to a halt, skidding to a halt, and gives you a kind of frisson of pleasure. Right, pictures in the post. The illustrated letters of Sir Henry Thornhill to his grandchildren. Now, this is a book that I first knew about through a series of postcards, ridiculous cartoons, sent by an old granddad in the Edwardian era, I think. He's in India and he's sending them home. And he has these cartoons of elephants and rabbits, although I think he's a hare rather than a rabbit. And the family kept them for decades, centuries. And they're really sweet. All of them are gorgeous and describe this world that we can't imagine, really. Kind of unimaginably long gone. But they're sweet and funny and a bit kind of pre-Winnie the Pooh, but with elephants and set in India. And there's illustrated envelopes. This fella, this granddad, poured hours and hours and hours into this. It's very touching, the amount of time that he spends and energy to connect with these grandchildren, these relatives in England, who probably didn't know him until much later. But it's a really delightful book. If you ever come across this particular volume and this particular fella. Sir Henry Thornhill, and the book's called Pictures in the Post. It's one of those massive, massive picture books. It's so intricate that it will last you your whole life to go through. And that's the idea. Ronald Searle's books of pictures. They're really hard to come by. They sell for lots. When you see them, best off finding them in charity shops, people's collections. This is his book of Parisian drawings. They're kind of scratchy and blotchy, and you can see him, you can imagine him sitting in the street, covered in ink, scratching these things out. I love his pictures. He was married to, her name's just disappeared out of my head, but the amazing woman who was the main editor for Puffin Books in the 60s and 70s. I can't believe I've forgotten her name. It's terrible. And they made these trips all around the place. And they went to Paris. And this is the mid-70s. And these narrow, narrow streets, all blotchy and seething with life, especially on the left bank. He captures so well. And even though some of the outfits and some of the stuff from the time gives it away as the 70s, lots and lots of flared trousers, marks it out as either 1975 or 1990. They're still timeless. There's the Mona Lisa, giving 2 fingers to the tourists trooping out of their buses. I've also got a couple of volumes of his books of cat pictures. This is the big fat cat book. The socks has ran off. He's not interested at all. And here you've got cats behaving in all kinds of ways. That's one of my favourite pictures. My class of MA students once bought me a card with this on this bejewelled cat sat on a fat cushion with a class of students That was weird. It stopped recording. I must have hit something by accident. Right, last few things. Marvel 2-in-1. It was The Thing meets another superhero or a monster. He's got Fighting the Hulk on the front, Fighting Man-Thing on the back. These are these wonderful, huge essentials collections from the early 2000s, I think. Now these volumes are very kind of fancily produced. Back then they were black and white and on toilet paper mostly. They reprinted the 70s comics, the kind of what they call the Bronze Age comics, the ones I grew up with. So I was very pleased to collect up lots of these. Again, not something you sit and read through from beginning to end. They're books for dipping into, which is a really important art, I think. We'll talk about that more, the art of dipping into books. I'm sorry about this wobbly camera again. I must organise my tripod. This is a local series, Cutaway Comics. It's based in Manchester and run by Gareth Kavanagh and Ian Winterton and various others. And they all involve characters from the worlds of Doctor Who, as they say. And this series, very lavishly produced, beautifully done, and beautifully illustrated. Adrian Salmon, in this case. This is a mini-series that involves lots of the kind of grandiose villains who appeared once or twice in Doctor Who, but were never really given their full go at the limelight. Sutekh and Omega. And in the second volume, the Tharils from Warrior's Gate. And it's a wonderful thing where they go and, you know, they've got the rights from the individual writers involved. Because of course Doctor Who is the work of many hands, and people bring their own creations to the main show, and it's lovely when you see the original creations spin off into these different comics and books and audios, and this is the result. This smashing collection. Right, I think that's just about it. I'm sorry about I think I dropped this, didn't I, when I was looking at Marvel 2-in-1. That was an outtake, which unfortunately didn't get recorded. Anyway, I've got to go out now because we're going to a benefit gig, and I'm selling my pictures, and Jeremy's DJing again. So that's our Saturday afternoon and evening. So I will say goodbye and remind you all to hit like and leave lovely comments and subscribe, if you will, and let people know what I'm up to with my daft old books. Okay, take care.